To create an assessment document which will contain your rubric, you'll click on the Documents tab up at the top, and we're going to select New to create a new document. The folder we will select is under LiveText, and it's the LiveText Assessments folder. And the template we're going to use will be the Design Your Own Assessment. I'm going to create an assessment document that contains a rubric for my students' writing. I've called this the Writing Rubric for All Assignments because this is going to be a generic writing assignment type rubric that I can use over and over again on multiple assessments when needed. Now, I do like to select my style set, and I always like to go ahead and select the Spalding University style set. That just gives us a nice standard page that will have our Spalding colors with the Spalding logo. So I can see that my one page here contains 3 sections. It contains a section for text and imaging, and this is the section where I would want to edit to include any special instructions, maybe how the point system works, or if it's specific to an assignment, the objectives, or whatever I might want to add in this area. Usually I don't have time to do a lot of that, and so I just like to get rid of it. But it's nice to have a section, and I'm going to call this Instructions, just in case I need to add some additional notes. And of course, I will come up to the top right and click on Save and Finish. So I still have that section there, so if I want to go in and write some additional notes or instructions, I can do that. The next section is our standards, and at this point I can come into Edit My Standards and identify the standards that this particular assessment looks at. Since this is going to be a generic writing rubric, I'm not going to add any standards. I'm going to leave my standards section blank. And finally, I have my rubric itself. So I'm going to edit my rubric. And the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to change the name of this rubric. I like to have very specific names for the rubrics because when reports are run, they're going to look at the rubrics themselves and say, what rubric is this assessment report data being drawn from? And if you simply say it's a rubric, or it's a writing rubric, or it's for their reflection, I won't know what reflection, I won't know where it came from specifically. So I'd like very specific titles here for the name of the rubric itself. So this section title is going to be Generic Writing Rubric Used in EDU 379, 579. The next thing I'm going to do is choose my set of levels. And I like 4-point scale because a 4-point scale is what we use for grade point averages. So this would allow me to have a 4-point rubric that gives me a similar score. So I'm going to go ahead and pick exemplary, proficient, partially proficient, and complete. Now, along the left-hand side, I will add my different elements. So I can come in here and I will rename my element. The first one is going to be grammar. And spelling. Now if I had my standards in alignments, I could go ahead and align my standards. I can add a weight to this particular element. The way the points are going to be calculated is it takes the weight of the element and it multiplies that by the number of points on the scale. So if they get an exemplary here at this time, they would be taking 1 times 4, and they will have earned 4 points. So you use your weight, and it can be any number or decimal, to determine how many points this particular element altogether would be worth. Now once I have added that element, I can go ahead and click on Add, and again click on the element itself, and I can continue to add my various elements. Once I have all of my elements identified, I can go in and put in my descriptors. One of the characteristics of a good rubric is that each level is distinct from the others. A good rubric that is well defined should have very strong reliability and validity among multiple assessors. So in order to put in my descriptors here, I simply double click on the box, and I can go ahead and copy and paste or type in my descriptors if I know where they're coming from. Through the magic of technology, I now have my rubric complete, and I can go ahead at this point and click on Save and Finish. So you can see that this assessment document, which is a writing rubric for all assignments, is very simple and is just a matter of a section for any type of special instructions or descriptions or definitions, a section that would allow me to align my standards. And again, remember that a rubric is not aligned to every standard that you teach. It's only aligned to the standards relevant for that particular assessment. And then, of course, the jewel of it, and that is the rubric itself.